Welcome back to the Wizards Lair podcast, where we break down every episode of Wizards of Waverly Place. This is episode 11. I'm Daphne, and I'm with my husband Xander. Today, we are talking about Season 1, Episode 11, Potion Commotion.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us on another episode discussing Wizards of Waverly Place. We're glad that you're joining us. So this is going to be a fun episode. I've been waiting to get to this one for a while. Lots to talk about, lots to unpack. But before we get into that, I want to real quickly just say thank you to all of our viewers and even shout out a couple people. Just real quickly, we have Sarah Graham and Meta Dexter. I want to thank you guys for your support of the show, and anybody out there who is also listening and following along with us as we rewatch this series. We just want to encourage you to subscribe to the YouTube channel and then follow us on Instagram. That's where you can find more Wizards of Waverly Place content from us. And so, yeah, let's go ahead and get into breaking down this episode. Daphne, do you want to go ahead and give us a little summary of the episode?
Okay, yeah, so this is a really fun episode. Like you said, there is a lot to unpack. Kind of the premise of it is we have a two-part story, but they also kind of overlap. So on Justin's side, he is like trying to be chosen for the World School Summit at the UN. So he's kind of competing with somebody to try and get that spot. And then Alex's thing is she is trying to get a date with Brad, who also happens to be the person that Justin is competing against.
Yep.
So even though they've got two kind of different storylines, they overlap because of this new character, Brad. We also are learning about potions in this episode, which will impact this story heavily. And then actually, now that I think about it, there is a kind of a third part to this episode where Max's little storyline is going on as well, because he is in the process of getting his full powers and, let's say, hijinks ensue. So it's a really fun one. There's a lot to talk about. We want to kind of start at the beginning and give our thoughts.
We start out with a wizard lesson close to the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a quick spell that doesn't really play a part in the overall episode like it usually does.
True.
But we do still have a spell that we learn, which is called Levitatus Liquidatus. So this is the ability to levitate liquids, which I'm trying to find a practical reason for.
Right.
And let the record show that in the episode, they're actually levitating a can. Max is levitating a can of soda as opposed to just the soda itself. So it's a little bit of an oddball spell, kind of just a whatever spell.
I think it's kind of just a throwaway from the writers, honestly, because like you said, it really is not an important spell that comes back in any way, which is interesting.
It is very inconsequential. I guess the overall joke is that Max is still trying to learn basic spells such as levitation because he's on lesson 5. Meanwhile, Alex and Justin are on lesson 372.
372. My jaw dropped when Jerry said that because I didn't remember that little line, and the fact that they're that far apart is fascinating to me because at this point in the show, like until Max starts to get his full powers in this episode, I don't know if they've mentioned that that's a thing, that he doesn't have his full powers yet.
No.
Have they? Like, that hasn't really come up. So, I was surprised to hear. I mean, not surprised that he was behind, but surprised that he was that far behind. And also, I was surprised that Alex and Justin were on the same lesson.
That's what I was surprised by, too.
Alex is keeping up.
So far, yeah, they're both on the same. Alex is going to start slacking real hard in the next season or two, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
But for the time being, they are both on lesson 372.
Yeah, definitely. Towards the beginning of this episode, we do also meet Brad, a new character that I don't think ever comes back, right? He's only in this episode?
Correct, yes.
So he's interesting. He is as Justin calls him, a schmoozer.
Schmoozer, yes.
And that is kind of his whole personality. He just manipulates people by complimenting them. And for some reason, Alex has a crush on him and is trying to get him to see her as more than a friend.
Yeah, so Brad Sherwood is played by Shane Lyons, I believe his last name is. It could be Lyons. But yeah, this is the only appearance that he makes in this show. And it's funny because Brad Sherwood, this is just random, but I'm pretty sure that's the name of somebody from the original Who's Line cast.
Really? Okay.
Was one of the guests that they would have on.
That's funny.
Brad Sherwood. I guarantee if I showed you a picture, you'd be like, oh, I know that guy from Who's Line is anyway. Anyway, so I thought it was funny that his name was Brad Sherwood because I couldn't just get that image of the other Brad Sherwood.
Well, and I would not be surprised if that was a direct reference from the writers. You know what I mean? Because the writers on this show are like comedy writers who have written for like Friends and other popular shows like that. So I wouldn't be surprised if they're directly shouting out another comedian or something. That's interesting. Good catch.
Yeah, very true. It could be.
So back to the potion lesson. I really enjoyed that because I really like the episodes where the branch of magic we're focusing on is not a spell necessarily. It's another facet of magic,
yes.
like potions.
Yeah.
So that was really fun to see. The potions, kind of gave me some Harry Potter vibes, which was fun. So in this potions lesson, once we move on past Max's levitating and onto Justin and Alex, Jerry shows them a potion that makes you angry. They're talking about emotion potions. And so he takes half and Justin takes the other half. And there's this hilarious bit where they just start yelling at each other, so angry, but they're saying the nicest things. And Oh my gosh, we were cracking up. It's so gold.
That was funny.
So I guess from there, we kind of go to the scene where Max starts to gain his full powers. So he comes down the stairs, and first of all, I want to point out, this is inconsequential to the plot of this episode, but Max's shirt in this episode was giving me Steve from Blue's Clues vibes.
It did look a lot like it was the same green
the green striped polo shirt.
That's funny.
And obviously all of Max's shirts are really oversized, so it literally just looks like it's Steve's shirt. It made me laugh.
Yeah, I wonder if, because we've noticed this in several episodes where Max's shirts are just, huge.
Huge.
And so it's almost like they're like Justin's hand-me-downs or something like that.
Probably.
And Max has to just grow into them or
That's
whatever.
a good point.
But no, you're right. Hardcore Steve vibes.
Yes. But then all of a sudden when he comes down the stairs, he just starts...
He sneezes.
Yeah. Oh, that's what happens. Yeah, he sneezes and just floats to the ceiling and can't come down. And apparently that means that he's getting his full powers.
Yeah, it's almost like puberty, but for wizards.
Yes, literally. And he's about that age, too, so it's funny. But apparently the only thing that will keep his powers under control during this, week or 10 days or so, that his full powers are coming in, is to wear this ridiculous hat that apparently both Alex and Justin had to wear as well when their full powers were coming in. So he simply cannot take it off, or he is just using magic uncontrollably when he sneezes or hiccups, foreshadowing.
Anything, yeah, for sure, yeah.
Or just anything like that, or just has a thought, something's going to happen.
And, what's funny is that I was just kind of thinking during this episode, we were talking earlier about how Max is only on lesson number 5, meanwhile Alex and Justin are almost on lesson 400. Well, is it really that fair for Max, who doesn't even have his full powers yet? No wonder he couldn't levitate the can of soda. He was probably having trouble focusing his powers, or maybe, I don't know, he just didn't have enough strength or enough power or whatever it was. But it seems kind of unfair that Max, being the youngest, would be stuck at, a lower level when...
That's a very good point.
He doesn't even have his full powers yet.
It's like he's automatically behind no matter what. Even if he was, which he's not, even if he was as dedicated to it as, for example, Justin is, he is at an immediate disadvantage because he just simply cannot do as much as they can.
And it makes you wonder, when did they start doing their lessons? Because if Justin started, let's say, when he was 10, okay, that means that Justin has been studying magic for, let's say, 6 years. And then Alex, let's say she started a year or two later, so she's been doing magic for 4 years, but Max, being only 12, has only been doing magic for, say, 2 years.
Right.
Unless you start all of them at the same time and force Justin to not start until Max can at least display some magic. But it's kind of odd because it's like Justin would be at the automatic advantage.
Yeah.
And Max would...
It's kind of a lose-lose no matter how you go about it.
Yes, it's a little weird. Now, the reason why I'm talking about this so much is because this episode is the first time that we actually openly hear about the wizard competition.
Really? It hasn't been mentioned before
this
this
one? It has
one?
never been mentioned until this episode, and it was mentioned in this scene almost like just a few lines casually and gone. They said, now Max can be in the wizard competition, and Justin said, who cares? I'm going to be the one to keep my powers.
Right.
And he's like, no, I am. And then it's like, that was it.
Wow.
So that is the first time we have ever heard anything about there not only being one wizard in the family, but just a competition period.
Yeah.
And the idea that only one of the wizard children will keep their powers. So, and it was mentioned so casually and so quickly that I feel like most fans of the show just kind of assume that this is, I mean, we all know that this is the main part of the show.
Right.
This is the main crutch of the show. But it's funny how we don't hear about it until 11 episodes in.
That is really
They did a really
interesting.
good job setting us up and kind of getting us used to the characters, magic, and then now they're slowly introducing these much larger ideas
Yes.
of, competition and being a full wizard, if
Yeah,
you will.
and storylines that span multiple episodes and multiple seasons rather than just these one-off funny little stories. That's the first time. And that's a really good catch because I honestly had not fathomed that this was the first time that it's mentioned, because obviously we've seen the show so many times now that I know it's a thing. So when they said it so casually, I assumed it had already been mentioned. But that's an interesting way to introduce it. Back to what we were saying earlier about the unfair advantage, it kind of would be a lose-lose no matter what, because, I mean, obviously they've already started the competition, so he's behind, and now he gets to join them. But if they had waited, that wouldn't be fair to Justin and Alex
Yep.
to have to wait to learn anything until they're 16, 17. That's not right either.
It's very true.
So, poor Max. I feel like he was kind of destined to lose.
Yeah, but learning about this wizard competition, this is, I think anybody who's a fan of The Last Airbender will get this, but in that show, we learn about the comet, and the Sozon's comet, and how
Yes.
that's going to play a big part in the final episode. I feel like this is the comet. Like, we have just learned about the comet. This is like the main thing that's going to take us throughout the rest of the series, and everything's going to build up and culminate to...
Yeah, and it takes the show to the next level.
Yeah, it really does. So...
one thing I was thinking, or we were kind of talking about during the episode about Max's silly hat that he has to wear, just practically speaking, and I know this is a Disney Channel show, but in public schools, you can't wear hats, right?
I know that in my school you could not wear a hat. If you wore a hat, you had to take it off.
Yeah.
That wasn't like just during the Pledge of Allegiance or anything. That was all day. You could not wear a hat in school.
Yeah, and
indoors.
I've always known that to be the case in public schools, as far as I know. So I thought that was funny because I'm like, okay, what if a teacher asked them to take it off and then he's screwed?
Yeah, for real, because then it would just start either snowing or whatever, like we see in this show.
Yeah.
All this stuff is happening. So, yeah, I think it's kind of, like, ridiculous that the wizards or whoever, came up with this would, you have to wear this hat in order to control your powers. Because I feel like, it's either going to draw attention to you and get you ridiculed in school, or it's going to, if you take it off, or if some kid takes it off, or a teacher forces you to take it off, then you're going to expose magic, and, it's like, again, it's a lose-lose.
Yeah, and why can't they're freaking wizards, why can't they find a way to make the hat invisible at least? You know what I mean? Where, you do have to wear it, but, we can at least hide it, because, it's... it's modern days and we live in the mortal world. We can't just be wearing stupid hats like that in public. So, in this point of the episode, we have come to what I believe we would both agree is the first magic exposure.
So, in the last several episodes, anybody who's watched this show, and even you'll know, I've been predicting these several exposures of magic in the next coming episodes. Yes, and we've been counting. We're at 4 blatant exposures of magic in 11 episodes.
11 episodes. 4 in 11 episodes. Just keep that in mind.
Yeah, and I've been foreshadowing this episode, so it's finally here where we just have blatant exposure after blatant exposure.
It's
so
insane.
yes, this is the first one where once they come downstairs into the sub shop and the Russos are going to leave for school, Max decides he's fed up with the hat, he doesn't like it, he takes it off, and all of a sudden it starts snowing inside the sub shop. And guess who's looking out the window, or looking in from outside? Brad. And he's looking, and he can clearly see it snowing.
Yes.
He's clearly confused. He even questions them when they come out. What was that?
And
I saw snow.
Yeah, and they just gaslight him into
dandruff.
believing it didn't happen.
Yeah.
They're like, what? You're so funny.
No,
no, we just have dandruff. It runs in the family.
Even Dandruff Danny couldn't hold a candle to this, from Hannah Montana.
Good catch.
Dandruff Danny couldn't hold a candle to this. Yeah, so, I mean, the fact that they're even using that as an excuse is just a lazy excuse. Even Brad just isn't buying it. He's like, no, I'm going to get to the bottom of this. This is weird.
He's immediately, suspicious of the family from here on out. Because he saw it.
Yes.
He saw it. This was not one of those situations where we can argue about, oh, well, it happened, but the person wasn't looking or whatever. No, he was staring in the window and saw it snowing from nowhere. So I think we can both agree that's a blatant magic exposure.
This is exposure number 1 for this episode.
Yep, and number 5 overall.
And in this episode, or actually in this same scene, so Alex is trying to flirt with Brad and get with Brad so that she can go, I think so that they can go to a concert together or something like that. Yeah. Is that what the deal is? So my question is, why is she trying to get with Brad when she's technically still with Riley?
Is she?
Is she not?
I don't think so.
Because we haven't seen the last of Riley yet.
We haven't?
We have at least 2 more episodes with Riley.
Okay, well, you know more than I do, because you've rewatched it more times than I have, but...
We have the Supernatural, and then Alex's Spring Fling, I think, I think that's the last... We have at least 2 more episodes with Riley.
That's a really good question. So, but he hasn't been here for multiple episodes, and she's been acting like she's single, so it's almost like they...
It's like one of those,
Yeah, I guess just high school where you're back and forth with different...
Oh, I was going to say writers. The writers were kind of like with Miranda.
I'm trying to justify it, but in reality, yes, it was probably somewhat lazy writing in this department at least.
Yeah.
They've probably just kind of forgotten about Riley and then later on decide to bring him back.
For sure. Yeah, it makes sense.
Oh, so we go back to school and we finally get to meet one of our favorite characters.
Oh, yeah.
Which is Mr. Laritate.
Yes, Bill Chalk is playing Mr. Laritate, and episode 11, that's pretty early. I don't know why. I was thinking that he was like a season 2 character or whatever.
Really?
But we actually get Mr. Laritate pretty early on in the series, and of course his role will become more and more as the series goes on. But yeah, this is the first time we meet Mr. Laritate, and he's awesome.
Yeah, he's awesome. I'm the opposite. I almost was surprised that it took this long to get to him. I knew he was, didn't become as big of a character until later on, but I was surprised it took 11 episodes to get to him. But we just love him. Bill is such a great actor. He's so funny, and I love Mr. Laritate's whole cowboy vibe with his little bolo ties and everything. He's a great character.
He is, and he actually is saying his Western lingo right from the beginning.
Oh, yeah.
I was wondering if he was going to be as upfront, with his Western vibe, and he was. He was saying, upright hombre, and
buckaroo.
Something about buckaroo and, hitching a wagon or something like that. I don't know, but yeah, he was definitely already doing the Western lingo thing, which that's pretty on character for Laritate.
Yeah, it's great. And in that scene, we see Brad, who, honestly, Brad sucks. I do not like Brad. There's no redeeming qualities about Brad.
Nope.
But in this scene where we're meeting Laritate, he is schmoozing, surprise, trying to kind of kiss up to Laritate so that he can win this UN thing that Justin is trying to get. And he's pretty much just bribing him. Like, he made him brownies, and he's complimenting him, and all this stuff. Meanwhile, Laritate's kind of implying to Justin that he has no chance. So he's supposed to come over to the Russos that night for Justin's home interview, but kind of acting like it's no use, because Brad's pretty much already won with all his bribing.
And I think pretty much after this is where Justin and Alex end up teaming up, right?
Yes.
Because they kind of realize that, you need Brad to not be at the summit on Saturday. I need him to go with me to the concert, so maybe we can work together to kind of have him lose and have you win. So what's their big plan? Let's go mix 2 halves of a love potion, and then we'll give one to Brad, one to me, and that way Brad will just be so infatuated that he can't possibly not go to the show with me.
Exactly, yeah.
And he'll just kind of forfeit the UN summit, whatever it is. And so that becomes their big plan, and as soon as they get the potion separated and are ready to go ahead with their plan, this poor unfortunate soul in the sub shop starts choking on his sandwich.
Yeah.
And I love because of course the viewers know more than the characters in the scene. So Brad, not knowing, just instinctively goes and gives him the drink, which Alex takes away and says, no, don't give him that. He's thinking, what do you mean don't give him that? He needs something to drink. And she goes, well, I thought he'd like root beer better. So she so she goes and wastes like an extra 3 or 4 seconds of getting him another drink. Meanwhile, he's choking to death. And it's just one of those things that's so funny. And then even after that, she goes back to the counter, and this little kid wants to drink the other half.
Yeah, he thinks it's a free refill.
He thinks it's a free refill. And so she grabs it and goes, no, this is mine. And she drinks it, and he just like falls off the stool.
Yeah, she knocks him down, basically.
And it's so funny, too, the way the scene just played out. Was that whole scene was hilarious.
Yeah, and it was one of those scenes that's very heavy on the physical comedy, and it was choreographed really well. So I'm curious how long it took to get that right and how many takes they did on that. Because that's the kind of stuff that seems easy and looks really funny and easy, but it is hard to get that kind of timing right. and to hit all of the beats of, you know, knocking this person over, dropping this, throwing this, like, and still getting your lines and your cues and everything. So I always love when we get little scenes like that.
And as a background actor too, you gotta like make sure to like commit and follow through. And just because you're not like directly in front of them, you still have to keep acting.
Yeah.
So this kid, he's the whole time looking back at her like, well, she was rude. She just knocked me off my stool.
Yeah, he ends up running
basically
out.
kicks me out. Yeah, he gets really upset. And even though he's in the background, out of focus, he still looks like he's upset. And, you know, meanwhile, Selena's up front, you know, killing it on screen. But anyway, so yeah, now she has drank both halves of the love potion, which they quickly realize, and they can suspect it's not a good thing. And the second she says something selfish or something conceited, her head just blows up like a melon, which I love the way the VFX people did it, because it looked like it was just a bulge effect, maybe.
Yeah, and they do this like balloon inflating kind of sound. It's so funny. And she looks so goofy.
You know what? But all in all, they pulled it off. It looked pretty funny.
Yeah. So yeah, that's our new problem basically, is that her head is expanding every time she says anything conceited, and she can't stop doing that because she's basically taken a love potion and fallen in love with herself. But obviously they can't have other people seeing her head like that because it looks ridiculous.
Yep.
So that's our new issue. Justin does realize that it kind of brings it back down if she, as he says, bags on herself instead of brags on herself. So that's the way to control it, is for her to say something negative to bring herself back down.
And then back at school, I think here we have, I think, another blatant exposure of magic. And so we can kind of discuss this. So back at school, Max, poor guy, still wearing the hat, still getting laughed at.
Oh, getting laughed at big time.
Oh, he's going through it. So he decides, you know what? Again, he's fed up with it. He takes off the hat, slams it down. And immediately, every single locker behind him starts opening and closing very aggressively, very rapidly.
Yes, and there are people all around.
And there are kids, 12-year-olds, 15-year-olds, all around watching and listening. So that, to me, I think, is an exposure. I don't know, is it?
I don't know. This is the only one in the episode that I think is a little more arguable. At least I think. We'll see. Because the way they had the kids in the background, they kind of had them clear off pretty quickly as this was happening. So even though they were there, they didn't really seem to be paying attention, but there were still some kids coming in the main doors that were kind of looking at Max. So they kind of made them look at Max and not the lockers, but how do you not hear and see that?
Well, there were kids pointing and laughing as he was walking in.
I know,
and he took the hat off.
Yeah.
So even though they're out of frame, out of camera, they were still there.
Yeah.
And as soon as he takes the hat off, they're opening and slamming, and then Justin comes in and says, Max, what are you doing? You have to wear your hat. He puts the hat on, and then they immediately stop.
Yeah.
So not only is it clear that the lockers start once the hat's off, but they stop when the hat's back on.
Right.
So it's like, And
it's very obviously the Russos that are making this happen.
I guess no character actually questions it. Like, Brad questioned the snow.
Right. But they saw it
and
it was something completely unnatural to the mortal world. So I'm down to count it.
I'm down to count it because that's never happened.
Yeah.
And that could never happen. There is no logical explanation.
There's not. If there was, like, I don't know, maybe you heard a locker off in a distance close, like, oh, that's kind of spooky, but like, that could have been anything.
Every single locker.
But all of them, loudly, aggressively, repeatedly, too, not even just once, many times they're opening and closing.
Yes.
So, I'm counting this one. Let us know what you guys think, if you would count this as a magic exposure or not, but we're counting that as our second.
We've gone from 4 to 6, and we're not even done with this episode.
No, we are not done.
Because
there is more.
Because now that we're getting into the episode, we know that Justin is going to have his interview with Laritate at his house. Mm-hmm. And then Laritate will decide who is going to be the chosen candidate for the summit. So Justin is very nervous to have Laritate over, and now he's even more stressed out because Alex, of course, is got her problem with her inflated head, Max and his hat situation, Brad and his schmoozing. So Justin's stress levels are at an all-time high. Definitely.
I feel so bad. And that's kind of where we pick up is that night where Laritate comes over to the Russo household. There was a really funny moment when Teresa's inviting him in and kind of introducing the family and everything and trying to make Justin look good. And she tells him, Jerry's Justin's dad. And also my husband. I feel like I had to specify, because in these modern times, you can never assume.
That's such a funny quote.
It was really good, and Maria's delivery on that was just fantastic.
In addition to Laritate showing up, Brad just so happens to show up and gives Alex some chocolates and tries to pretend that he's there for her when we all know that he's there to crash Justin's interview.
Yep.
So as we're getting into the evening, Alex has to wear the hat because even though Max has his powers kind of settling in, because of her inflated head, we learned that if you put the hat on, then it kind of
controls
the inflated head. So she's now wearing the hat, and because Max is not, he says, "Oh, I'm craving Chinese food." And then when he hiccups, all of a sudden the loft flashes into China, and you see the Great Wall outside the window, and then the doors open, and a Chinese buffet comes rolling through the house.
Oh, it's so bad.
And it's like, oh no. So again, we're getting into another blatant exposure of magic here, because you can't explain how you open the door and all of a sudden you're looking out into China. If you look out the window, there's the Great Wall.
Yeah.
You have Chinese food. You have people from China delivering the food into the door. And then I think like within 2 minutes, they're in Hawaii, right?
Yeah, so what happens is Jerry's finding out about what Justin and Alex did with the potion, and he's mad. Because, he was mad that Max wasn't wearing his hat, and then he figures out why. So as soon as they're transported to China, he kind of drags Justin and Alex outside to China to show them what's going on and to yell at them. But while they're outside, I think Max either sneezes again or does something and transports them to Hawaii.
Yeah.
So now they're in Hawaii, and there's a bunch of luau girls coming in to the loft now. And apparently, I feel like we're meant to believe that Brad and Laritate don't see outside. I don't believe that. I know they didn't see behind them because they kind of made a point to close those curtains and to not let them turn around. But the front door was wide open almost this whole time. And both Laritate and Brad are sitting on the couch, which is right next to the front door.
Oh, yeah.
And they keep looking over. And I'm like, I know they see that.
Yeah, you have to.
But they don't say anything, and they don't freak out about it.
No, of course not.
Laritate just thinks that Justin's gone above and beyond with this evening, and he's, showing him all these cultures of the world and proving how passionate he is about, bringing world cultures together and stuff. So I think the show wants us to believe this is not an exposure, but I don't think I'm going to accept that.
Gosh, again, it's just one of those things where, we excused the Mondoplex thing in the theater episode, whatever that one was, because, everybody's back was turned.
Right.
They were kind of in an open space, but again, everybody's back was turned, and nobody was paying attention. There was a lot of other stuff going on, but this is the only thing going on in this scene.
Yeah, the only thing.
And plus, the temperature has to change. You have to hear the noise,
to hear China outside,
the hustle and bustle, the different languages that's being spoken. So this one you just can't excuse. This is number 3.
Number 3 in one episode.
We're at 4 to 7 now.
Before we started this episode, we were at 4. That is crazy to me. What a wild episode.
We're catching up to how many episodes we're on with how many exposures. There's
literally.
Before you know it, we're going to be at 11. But anyway, so yeah, that's kind of where we're at right now. Is Laritate and Brad are just kind of stunned with everything that's going on.
Laritate seems to think that this is all Justin's doing, and that it makes him such a great candidate for the summit that he actually ends up choosing him because of all of this madness. So I guess that's a bright side. So he kind of rejects Brad, and then everybody finds out that Brad wasn't there for Alex at all, and he was just there to ruin Justin's evening and all of that.
He calls Bolotai stupid.
He does call Bolotai stupid, which Laritate does not take very well. In fact, he rips his bolo tie off, which is hilarious.
Yeah, Brad is exposed.
So, I'm pretty sure Alex I'm not sure what she says, but she says something that brings her head back down enough that she can give her hat to Max, and China or Hawaii or whatever it is goes away. They're back in New York. So at that point, they can send Brad and Laritate out safely. Actually, we sent Laritate out first, but then Brad and Alex kind of have a little bit of a discussion because she calls him out for not being there for her and just being a schmoozer again. And we come to our 4th potential exposure of the episode and final. And this one, there's no arguing this one. She is talking directly to Brad. And do you know what it is she says that makes her head swell up again?
Yes, she says that she's a prize. That she's nobody's second choice.
Yes, and I'm proud of her for that, by the way. Alex is, at the end of this episode, I am proud of her, even though it still was funny because she's still bragging on herself.
Yeah.
It was a good moment, I feel like, for maybe young girls to see her not taking him back, because he actually tries. He says now that he's not going to be part of the summit, he's like, well, now I guess I'm free Saturday night.
Says,
we can go out.
No, sir.
She said, I'm nobody's second choice because I'm a prize.
And then her head grows right in front of his face.
Right in front of his face. They are standing right next to each other, staring at each other, and he sees it.
He says, you know what? I just now noticed that your head is too big for your body. Ugh. But then here's why I think this counts and everything else counts.
Okay.
Because he then goes on to say, there is something weird about you Russos.
Yes.
There is something going on, and I'm going to get to the bottom of this.
Yeah, he knows.
So there is something that, I mean, he's a pretty smart guy. We're led to believe that he's, pretty smart, and he's like Justin, an academic, and, whatever. So he isn't going to just get over the fact, when you say that there's snow, it's just snowing. He's not going to believe that.
No, he saw it with his
own eyes. He's not buying any of this. And so I like how he says, there's something weird about you, and I'm going to get to the bottom of this. But you know what? We never see Brad again.
No.
I wonder who took care of him.
I think I know who took care of him.
Who? Crumbs?
Yes. Because I am fully convinced that in this first season, Crumbs is out there covering for the Russo family and all their exposures.
Crumbs is working full-time, trying to protect magic. Crumbs is outside that apartment, and as soon as Brad walks out, wipes his memory of the whole situation. Sure.
That's what I bet happened. Because he was...
Cerebellum erasus?
Yeah. Is that?
That's the spell from the Supernatural.
For sure.
We'll get to that episode.
I love that you remember that. But yeah, I mean... He was very determined to get to the bottom of this, and then, like you said, we never even see this character again.
Nope.
So I like that headcanon, that his memory was modified.
I think Brad was taken out. It was either Crumbs or it was Amanda.
Taken out.
Or Amanda, one of the two.
Yeah. Or are they the same person?
Exactly. We don't know. We don't know. But, we end with Alex buying herself a bunch of flowers, even though the spell is worn off.
Right.
So everything is, in the end, it's...
kind of back to normal.
Back to normal.
Yeah.
Of course.
So, with that last magic exposure, that brings us to 4 in this episode, right?
Correct.
So, does that mean that in one episode we have doubled the amount of magic exposures in this season so far?
So, from 4 to 8, yeah, you're right.
That's crazy to me.
Doubled it.
We had
ridiculous.
We had 4 in 10 episodes, and then in episode 11, 4 more.
Gotta catch up, Russos.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
That is crazy to me. Anyways, I knew this was going to be, or you knew and told me this was going to be an exciting episode, so I really enjoyed it. Do you want to move on now to our favorite quotes of the episode?
I do. So mine actually happened very early on in the episode, and you mentioned it earlier when we were talking about the potion scene where Jerry is showing the Russos how to mix potions, and then he and Justin take both halves of the angry potion, and they start yelling back and forth, you're the best dad in the world, and, oh, you're a great student, I'm proud of you, and then Jerry says, I love you, and he goes, I love you more. So yeah, that little exchange is my favorite quote. It's so good,
and I love that David Henry and David DeLuise just fully committed to this bit, and they were just screaming,
bro hugging it out.
It was they were aggressively hugging each other. It was so funny,
almost wrestling. It was funny, but that's mine.
That's a very good one. Mine also comes from somebody who's on a potion. Mine comes from Alex when she is at school. I'm presuming the day after or the morning after she's taken the love potion, and she opens her locker and says, oh my gosh, someone sent me flowers. I wonder who it could be. Oh, me!
Of course. Who else, Alex?
I love it. She is so funny in this episode with all of the conceited comments and things like that.
Yeah, and you know who else was really great in this episode?
Who?
Harper. Oh, wait.
Oh, stop it. Don't remind me. That's what was missing.
6 episodes in a row, I'm pretty sure.
6?
We have had more absences of Harper than we have had episodes with Harper, I'm pretty sure. I could be wrong, but it feels like 6 episodes in a row.
There's a Harper-sized hole in my heart, and I hope that she comes back soon, because I can't believe that. It's funny that this first season, they didn't realize how good she could be and how vital she would become, because later on, she doesn't really miss an episode. She is part of the main cast.
Yeah, she fits in more because she knows about the wizards now.
True, and that's what
right now she doesn't really have a place yet.
Yeah, that's what we're missing right now, and like she wouldn't have a place in a lot of these episodes because all of these last few episodes have centered around magic mostly, which she doesn't know about. So I guess it does make sense, but it's a bummer, and I really hope she's in the next one.
I'm holding out that she is, but in any case, everybody listening and watching will have to stick around and see. So thank you guys so much for joining us for another episode breaking down Wizards of Waverly Place. And then please, if you like this series, you like these episodes, be sure to subscribe, like these videos, and leave some comments. Let us know who you are and why you like Wizards. And
absolutely. And we're trying to make some episodes here and there to get you through David and Jennifer's podcast not making new episodes right now because obviously they're both part of the SAG union, and they've got some new rules in regards to podcasts. So they're kind of on hiatus right now. So we hope that, if you found us because of that maybe you'll kind of catch up and listen to our backlog of episodes. And leave us your comments, and thanks for hanging out with us. See you guys in the next one.
Bye-bye.